It's a pleasure to be here again. I really enjoyed the last time we talked. We covered so many amazing things, and you're a great interviewer, so it's great that you invited me back again. I was worried because it took so long that I might have offended you, but clearly I hadn't, so here we are, back again.
Did I look offended? No, I don't. No, we had a marketing conversation, and we had a bit of a industry icon conversation, which we're going to touch upon today as well. But I want us to talk about public speaking today. I'm so excited. I think primarily because we're back to events, we're back to face-to-face communication, not fully in hybrid mode for sure, but I mean the topic of efficient communication, public speaking, is so relevant for public nowadays. Do you agree?
I think that public speaking is one particular area, but it's really about enhanced and effective communication. You don't have to be a great public speaker. You don't even have to be a great motivational speaker or presenter to be able to use speaking in your business model to connect with people. Podcasters don't have to be great speakers. Influencers don't have to be great speakers. You could be organizing joint venture events so people come together and you just set a deal just because you're able to speak. So communication has so many other ways of doing it. You could be a trainer, you could be a coach, could be a mentor. Typically you're seen as a speaker if you're holding a microphone in front of an audience. But I think that even though that has a special place, which maybe is more enhanced, that we see AI being involved in other communications, there will be a lot of people who turn around and say, I want to see them in flesh because I know it's real. I think that's going to be a thing of being the real deal. But I think that communication and speaking is a major part of it, is a very important part of everybody's business, because you can create a brand around yourself just by people knowing how you speak, how you think, and the message you want to share with people. And speaking is the fastest and most efficient way to do that.
That's great. So I've got a plan for the conversation. So you mentioned something interesting, by the way, just now. You said that you don't have to be a great speaker when you're doing a podcast.
That's true.
Can I question that? I kind of disagree with that. I think the like podcasts, different formats, etc. So you can have like you can be a single host as opposed to like a monologue podcast, and then it is required to be a really great inspirational speaker, or at least to know your topic. I mean, you're a professional in the efficient communication. So let's discuss that later, probably. But that is something that I would like to answer for myself. Do you need to be really a great speaker when you're hosting a podcast, or you don't?
No, because there's a couple of things at play here. First of all, the most important thing for any relationship is asking the question, what's in it for them?
Right.
So your listeners do not care about me. They don't care about you. They care about what they get from spending the time listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
As long as they get that, that's all that matters. There are a number of speakers who are terrible.
Right.
I mean, one of my favorite people on the planet is Richard Branson.
Yeah.
But he's not a great speaker. He mumbles and he stutters, but you listen because it's Richard Branson. And so it's really about what you share that people will be able to pick up on. If what you share is you're a great speaker, then that can really have great value too. But I think also that depending on what type of podcast you get, you might be bringing on some incredible guests, in which case if you're the host, it's really about pressing buttons and getting them to talk about themselves. If it's just about you and what you want to talk about, and your guest is sitting there looking at the walls, waiting for a chance to join in, then that's worse than being a bad speaker, because you're just self-centered and you're just driving it, unless that's what people want to listen into. And for some people, that's what they want. Yeah. If you're a shock jock and your job is to make people feel humiliated and with celebrities and ha, then that's the way to drive it. But I think what most people want for that mood in the car, or whether they're working at their laptop or whatever they're doing, they want to listen to a podcast. I think they want to find that in a very short amount of time, they're getting great nuggets of information that makes their life better. And they don't care so much about the delivery. I used to work for the BBC many years ago, 30 years ago. And if you watch original videos of the BBC from 40, 50 years ago, we are the BBC and we've come to teach you how to be a better person speaking English. And then I realized that most people don't speak like that. No human should ever speak like that. And so they started realizing that if they use regional accents from different parts of the UK,
Right.
then people appreciate that they're real people and not robots. And so they started looking for regional accents because they wanted people to represent their region on national TV,
Yeah.
but also when they're doing local radio and so on. And so that broke the mold quite a lot. But we're in a world now where we're all massively connected. And so as long as it doesn't matter which country you're from, what your religion is, what you look like, what your gender is, as long as you're giving value,
Yeah.
then people will forgive that
Yeah.
and just stay around because it's still worth it for them.
To me, it sounds like more about the ability to connect with, with the audience, regardless whether you're talking one-on-one or whether you're talking 1 to million, let's say, or 1 to thousands, let's say. And speaking about 1 to thousands, so you've been hosting actually the Rugby 7, Dubai Rugby 7 for like what, 17
For about
years?
20 years, not
20.
70 years. I'm not that
No,
old. I'm lucky.
17. I meant 17.
Yeah, about 18 years.
Yeah, so 20 years. And that's cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah, I think so. That is a big thing.
It was, I mean, the Rugby Sevens, and I don't work with them now, but they're still an incredible event. For about 18 of those years, we won the best regional sporting event in the whole of Middle East and Africa every time. And so what we did was exactly the point that you said about the beginning of this actual area of conversation. What you have to do to make it connect with people is you've got to get the Wi-Fi code of your audience. Now, the Wi-Fi code is who are they? Where are they from? What do they enjoy? What do they want to learn? Is their mood changing? Just like when you walk into a hotel, you pick up your phone and you say, right, have you got free Wi-Fi in here? They give you the code and suddenly you've got internet. If you can work out the Wi-Fi code of your audience before you go there or very quickly when you are there, then they will stay with you. And every now and again, you've got to check that it's still working and reconnect if you have to. But if you get that right, then you can guarantee from the beginning of your conversation to the very end, they were with you for the entire journey. Now, most people don't know that. That's why so many people go on to give a keynote speech at a conference. They finish and there's silence. And they walk off the stage going, was it okay? I don't know if it's okay. But what happens is if they knew how to get the Wi-Fi code and they knew how to train their audience and monitor from the very beginning, then they'd be able to know what the audience was like because they'd be able to taste test the response from the audience all the way through their speech.
So how did you find the Wi-Fi to your Rugby 7 audience? And what was like one of the most memorable moments what did you make people do for you?
Right. Well, it's interesting because I know that in the time that I was there, we had lots of other famous acts coming in and working the audience, and many of them couldn't connect with the audience because the audience, you got to remember, and this is one of the things that it took about 4 years or so before the organizers actually realized that I knew what I was talking about when I said it's got nothing to do with rugby. People aren't there for rugby, they're there for a party. You could put any sport there, which they'll watch or not watch, but they're chatting, they're laughing, they're singing. If they're enjoying that experience, then they're there for whatever. But you have to treat them all like after the first few hours, they're like little toddlers. They've got the attention span of a goldfish. And I think it's because of what they've been imbibing during the entire experience. But once you've got that, they've got very little, they really want to let their hair down. They want to sing. They want to enjoy in bite-sized chunks something that makes them happier than they would be anywhere else. As long as you give them that, it's nice and easy. And so we got that worked out to a T. The action was amazing, great rugby and so on. And in between, we had cheerleaders, we had competitions, we had sing-alongs, we had activities where we drove a Mexican wave all the way around, but nothing overstayed its welcome. Because you've got a collective audience, and I've watched somebody go on and try and talk to the audience to teach them how to clap in time. And have you ever seen that movie 300 where the arrows are flying over at all the Spartans from the enemy soldiers? That was cans being thrown at the guy with a microphone who came back into what we called the Wendy House, which is where all the entertainers and commentators were, and he was in tears. And he said, what happened? And I said, well, you clearly have got to work them a different way. So I went out with them next time and worked them how to do it. But there is a way of doing it, and it's not obvious. And if you don't train them, they will train you. So you train them, I'm here, behave, and you'll have a great time. If you don't train them with that, they will say, we've got better things to do, keep the noise down or go away. and they don't waste any time with that. And that's the same for any audience anywhere.
Interesting. When did you feel that you can tackle, let's say, events like that? Because, look, my question here is more about, is something like a charisma important in, taking jobs like that? Or can a person be trained, or it has to be something that is coming naturally out of you that makes you a great, let's say, event host of that size? So my question is, can you be trained to be a great Rugby 7 event host, or is it something that comes naturally? And have you ever been afraid to go out there and to get, let's say, cans into your face out of the audience?
Have I been afraid? Well, here's the thing. Some audiences will love me, some audiences will hate me.
Right.
And some will be indifferent. If I'm the warm-up act for a big star or a band or something, they're not there to see me, they're there to see somebody else. But my job is to get the flavour of the audience and make sure they stay at fever pitch all the way through until the big act comes on. And so if I'm hosting a conference, some speakers are amazing, some speakers I really like watching paint dry. My job is to make sure that after every speaker, I reset the room, raise the level of energy so the next speaker comes on and it's their room to lose. If they bring it down again, I bring it back up again by getting it to work with the audience. As to whether it was something I'd learned, anybody can learn it, but it's also about what you're willing to give to the audience so they can see it. I walk out there and I don't look like anything special, but I've got energy that instantly connects with their Wi-Fi. And I change it depending on who the audience is to make it right. And I've been doing it since I've been 3 years old. My first shows at the age of 3. Yeah, I mean, I'm 55 now, so 5 decades. People don't believe it, but there are pictures I could share with you of me with a microphone and a drum, well, actually with a drum, singing I'm a Little Drummer Boy, walking around at Brassey Primary in Scotland in school and singing my song. And my parents talk about that and say we could tell that you were doing it. I went on to do a lot of shows with the school, including Joseph and its Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which went to sell out across the town. We had to put it in the town hall. It outgrew the school, and we sold 4 nights afterwards. And during that time, I entered a talent competition, which was not unlike America's Got Talent. I was 11 years old. I came second in the country in Scotland for that. And so I'd always had experiences of working audiences, but that was as a singer. But the same is still true. You have to be able to smile. You have to hold the audience. You have to know exactly what's going to work. So if I walk out to a corporate audience of men in suits, of grey hair, grey skin, grey beards staring at me, I have to know that the way to work with them is to go into their world and drag them back into mine as far as I can take them. So when I get the Wi-Fi code right, then they're with me.
That's a great topic you just raised. So let's say, because I mean, my audience is a lot of corporate people. And I think, as we mentioned at the beginning, so efficient communication is regardless of the industry you're in. It helps you in whatever role you're doing. So, but let's focus a little bit on the corporate world. So you mentioned something like your secret is that you're trying to go into a corporate world and you're trying to, let's say, drag those people into your world. How do you do that? Well, so I've heard a couple of speeches of yours and you're telling a lot of funny stories and you laugh a lot. Does that work?
It depends on the audience you have in front of you, because if you're doing a very serious event, you don't want it to be funny. And what most people don't realize is warm beats funny with every audience. If you try and tell jokes, sometimes it doesn't work. It can backfire badly. But if you go out and be warm and welcoming, to the audience, it has the same resonance as funny, and they will enjoy that. Probably more. And that means if there's a situation to tell a joke, and I don't tell jokes, I say funny things sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you say something that's funny, they will respond by breaking the ice and laughing with it, and then going back to being relatively straight. But every audience is different. In a corporate group, if you've got a room full of CEOs, then they're all playing a beauty pageant against each other. They all want to be seen as the most corporate, the most Elon Musk-y, Donald Trump-y, Barack Obama-y, whatever leader that they can possibly be. If you've got a room full of salespeople, they all want to out-energy each other by being the most enthusiastic, the most laid back, the biggest cheerers in the room. If you've got a room full of technical people like CIOs who are from the accounting department or the technical department, it feels like a seance. You've got a load of people who, remember, these guys are geniuses, but they're not geniuses with people. They feel more comfortable with a laptop or with a screwdriver. So what you get back from them is completely different. What you're looking for, there's actually a percentage point that you look for when you're working a corporate audience. You want to get 65% of the energy of the room, between 50 and 65%. Let me explain. 100% is they're singing their hearts out, they're doing an encore, they want to put you on their shoulders and carry on partying. That's what I did at Rugby Sevens. 80% is that they're excited and they don't really want to settle down. So if you went into like a staff event and you said, right, we're going to celebrate our year by giving everyone champagne, turn the music up, let's have a bit of a dance, you get them going, they roll up for it and say, right, sit down, let's talk serious business now. No chance. You've taken them too high. They're not going to come back down again unless something tragic happens, in which case you're very manipulative and probably a very bad boss. So what you can have is 50-50, which means that they're into it and they're not into it, but they're kind of with you on the journey. That's about right. If you get about 25% of the audience buying in, it's a kind of respectful fail. They respect you, but they're not into you, and they're not really into what you're doing, and they'll be polite, but you won't really know. But your average audience, you want to get, for a corporate, between 50 to 65%. That means that they're paying attention, they're respectful, and if you give them a call to action, they will then take action and do something because they've learned so much during that time. But in order to keep them with that level of energy, you do have to bring them up and bring them down all the way through, because otherwise they get bored and shifty. Sometimes you want to hold their attention, but if you hold their attention solidly for 3 hours, then they're going to lose it. Nobody can do it for that long. They need to take breaks. So then you want to have coffee breaks, or you want to make them laugh, or you want to make them shift them. Put your hand up who believes that they can change the world with AI. Yeah, we do. Who doesn't? Okay, fantastic. So you can do stuff like that, and just that little bit makes a difference. What I work with is, when you're giving a keynote speech, make everything that you want to check the audience with a rhetorical question, because it feels like they're with you. So let me clarify this. You should never, ever, ever give a keynote presentation, give a speech, or go on stage and say, this is the way things are. What you should do is have a conversation with your audience, but you're the one on stage. It's a two-way process that they're not really invited to talk back to. So if you're speaking to them and you say, do you understand what I'm talking about? Then you'll get a nod. They feel it's two-way, but they haven't interrupted your flow. That's what you need to do. That's how you get the Wi-Fi code of your audience, and you guarantee that you got them from the very beginning until the very end of your speech.
So it's a conversation, and so you need to feel like so you've gained, let's say, 65% of your audience, or
the energy is
the energy.
You want 100% of them,
but
that's 65% of the energy level.
Energy level. No, that's clear. That's actually that's great. And so, do you usually prepare for your keynotes? Is it something that I mean. Let's say the beginning of your career, and let's say your recent years when you really felt like you're so experienced, like how much preparation do you need, and how much preparation does a normal average person need to create a great keynote?
It really depends. I mean, for me, I create a new keynote about once a year, and I take it on the road, or I take it to events, I take it to conferences, and I prepare it so it's got modular elements of it, so I can cut and paste live, depending where we need to go. So with my PowerPoint, I've got different squares, which are all hyperlinks to a different set of slides. So I do use a PowerPoint when I use it. For preparation, I want to have a very strong set of scripted areas, and I then want to ignore them, because I want to give to the audience the feeling that this is happening live for them and it's relevant. But every now and again, we move back into pre-prepared material. So the way I would see it, especially now, when I like to do a free-form presentation with an audience, when I was a DJ, you would look at your audience, you'd start off with a song, you'd play your song, and then you think they're still dancing, I'll play something like it and keep it going. But if you want to change the mood, you go into a completely different type of music, but you're working with the audience. You do that with stories when you're a keynote speaker. So you start talking about one particular area, and then it moves into another area, then it moves back, and you basically you're not making them dance, but you're making them go on a trip with you during that whole experience. And if you do it correctly, they will stay with you for the entire lot. So you need to know where you're going in. Where's your jumping in point? You need to know how you finish with some kind of finale. Otherwise, it feels flat and they feel kind of it feel like they've gone through a journey. It's a massive anticlimax.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to have highlights all the way through that they can say, that means something to me. So you need to know your audience before you begin, because otherwise, if you're talking about you all the time, who cares? Your story might be fascinating, but if it's to the wrong people and they don't identify with it, it doesn't matter. So if you're talking about, it's really difficult choosing which car to drive this morning, my wife took the Rolls and tomorrow I might just have the Bentley, then that's great if you've got an audience full of people with lots of different top-end cars. But nowadays, especially the challenges that people are going through with the mental issues and emotional issues after the pandemic and the financial challenges of a world that's going into recession, or in fact it's very, very much in recession, and the fact that many people don't go into the office anymore, you've got to be able to get what works for everybody. And the best way to, do you know how to get away with saying something that's outrageous on stage?
No, please. It would be interesting to hear. So here's
a cheat. When you're on stage and you say something and you know it's going to be offensive, you know it's going to be quite challenging, don't go offensive, it's probably hard to bring back from. You say, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then you say it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you carry it and you wear it, but nobody else is necessarily getting blamed for it. And if you add afterwards, but I'm happy to be proven wrong, it's just my thoughts on it so far, then you kind of can get away with a lot of stuff. But I would always advise that you only do that when you are going to make a challenging conversation with them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes politics can really work an audience badly, but if that's your audience who loves that particular part of politics, that's fine. But for instance, if I went out into an audience and I started talking about, we had 100 people in the audience, and I said something that was very divisive, and a person got really offended, and they started shouting at me, and I started shouting back at them, which you should never do, by the way. If I've got a microphone, I will always win. So they're having a go at me. And then they start to cry.
Yeah.
I've lost that audience. Because right until there, you're really cool and you got this under control, but they get really upset, and suddenly everyone instantly feels their Wi-Fi code because there's a heightened emotion in the room, and you then have to get that room back again, and it's not always easy.
Yeah.
A similar situation that sometimes happens is if you don't train them to behave when you're speaking. And sometimes, like for instance, in this beautiful studio, we've got the team around here, but we've got these poles with the lights on and so on. If you don't see their faces every now and again when you're working with an audience, and sometimes a room has got a great big pillar, then they get disconnected. And then they get on their phones or they talk to each other. So you might hear a little murmur, but when that murmur starts, it has a ripple effect with the people around them who can't hear you. So they start to talk amongst themselves. And before you know it, you've got a percentage of a room that are making their own conversation, and it's irrespective of you. You didn't see it, but you can hear it. When you go over, or if you go over and you don't address it properly early, and you go, guys, could you keep the noise down, please? I'm trying to present here. You've just killed the connection with the people who didn't know that was a problem.
Interesting.
And so you then have a room where you've got to kind of eat humble pie to bring them back on and reset them. Instead, what you need to do is from the very beginning, even before you go on stage, see where the quiet spots are. Watch the previous speaker to see what works, what doesn't work, where you think the trouble could be with an audience. So by the time you've got it right, you've got it exactly right. So one technique I'll share with you, what I do when I start talking to an audience, if I'm hosting an event, is I'll go, can the guys at the back hear me? If you can, give me a wave. What that does is it means that everybody from here to the back stops speaking. Daddy's here. The minute they wave at the back, it shows the guys who are in front talking that the room is paying attention, even if you're not. And then you get silence.
That's cool. But how long can you keep that silence?
That's up to you to keep the energy going and to keep it. If you've got it right, the audience is there and it's yours to lose. And if you've messed it up, then you have to bring it back again. But if you mess it up too many times, then that's it. They're gone. But if you don't get them from the beginning, then you'll never get them back again.
Have you ever messed up? Like my question, have you ever failed with a keynote? Oh, do you? Oh, I mean,
Interesting. I haven't failed with a keynote. To be honest with you, it's about percentages.
Yeah.
Because I never fail to get the results that I can get.
Yeah.
It's like a football match. You know, one of my favorite personalities is a guy called Jose Mourinho, who was the manager of Chelsea, Manchester United, he's a Portuguese guy, really amazing. But the games he wins are boring because he'll score a goal early and just defend the rest of the game. But he wins leagues and he wins trophies and he wins championships doing boring football.
Yeah.
But he's a genius and everyone does exactly what he says and he's very strict with everybody. But the end result is all that matters. So sometimes I've been put into situations where it's very challenging and very difficult to be able to work the audience. If they're not my audience or something can happen that makes it difficult. So you might be thrown into an audience to do it's harder with a hypnosis show because you need volunteers. And with a speech, it's very simple. You get up, you talk to the audience, you get them involved, you get your energy, they do the thing, leave, round of applause, halas, that's it, finished.
Yeah.
But if you need to get volunteers at the audience and you drop them into a hypnosis trance, and then you get them to do crazy stuff, you need to have people who want to be there.
yeah.
So if you've got an audience that doesn't want to work for the company, to be in a hostile takeover, the new bosses we don't like, we know half of us are going to get sacked. We just want to drink, bring some belly dancers on, and we're just going to enjoy your money as we say goodbye to each other. That's really hard to inspire that audience.
That's true.
And so my levels of... I never walk out of an audience without giving it my best shot. My best shot is better than most people's shots. I don't remember a time when it hasn't worked to give a speech. With hypnosis shows, it's like that. The best way to get, actually, with hypnosis shows, it's very interesting with that. The best hypnosis shows I've ever done were ones that are advertised. Mm-hmm. Because people pay to go.
Yeah.
And even if they think it's rubbish, or they think it's true, or they're just curious, hypnosis is in their head before they arrive. If somebody throws me on stage and says, right, Dave, do stuff, I'll say, do we know about hypnosis? No, we kept it a secret. What am I going to work on? I have to then get them to trust me, trust the process. Some will think that it's voodoo. It's really challenging. So a lot of it is pre-planting into people's minds what you need. And the same with an audience. Do your homework, know the room, make sure your presentation works, and also... know the demographics of people in a room. You can work it out quite quickly when you start, but you also run the risk that while you're working it out, you're not paying attention to the audience in front of you because you've got other stuff going on in your head. And so you got to make sure it's all working at the same time. As for whether I've failed in any audience, I've had situations where at Rugby Sevens, it's been raining so badly that the power has gone off.
Yeah.
So I'm working the audience and there's no sound. I can't use a microphone. If I shout, some people might be able to hear me, but it's 50,000 people. So what we did was we said, right, put Wonderwall on the big screens, which is that Oasis song, Wonderwall. I walked into the middle of the pitch and I said, come on, and started moving my arms and singing the song. So those near me could hear it, they started singing it, and by the end of it, the whole chorus was going out with everybody joining in. When I did a hypnosis show in Johannesburg, I remember going out, and it was the first night, and it was in this big theatre in Caesar's Palace, big posh place, and it was full of media. Probably about 2/3 of the audience was media. So I started doing the show, great, working well, 10 people on stage doing everything I asked them to do, then the power went off. The whole room was completely black. And so I'm trying to talk to the guys in the wings who are running the stage. I'm going, what's going on? They're like, we're making phone calls. After about 10 minutes, I'm thinking they're not going to do anything. But I can't do the show because these guys are hypnotized. If they stand up, they'll fall over in the dark and hurt themselves. And the audience are kind of thinking this is part of the show.
All right.
And I'm thinking it's not remotely part of the show. I have no idea what to do now. So I thought about it and I thought, well, hold on, what can I do with the people we have here? And I thought, the microphone's not working, but we're in a theatre. When we do a play, not everyone walks around with the microphones. I said, can everybody hear me still? Yes. Okay, everyone take a big deep breath and close your eyes. And I dropped the entire theatre into hypnosis. And I took them on a journey of positive visualization for the future, of their business and their relationships. And I did it for about half an hour.
Wow.
By that time, the power hadn't come on. So I thought, okay, in that case, you've had enough, and I've done my job of entertaining. Right. So I brought them out of it. I said, I'm going to count from 1 to 10. On the count of 10, switch on your phone, illuminate the whole theatre, and give yourselves a round of applause.
Yes.
So I did that. They did that. Snapped the people out on stage out of it as well, because they woke up like that, and it worked very well. I said, make your way out safely, and they went out. The minute they opened the door at the bottom, the lights were on outside, because it's a gaming resort.
Yeah.
And so they don't care about the places that don't make money, like restaurants and theaters. That's somebody else's problem. But the lights have a special, the pinball machines have a separate generator, and they were never going to switch it off. So the power came back 4 hours later.
Oh my God.
So that was a challenge. But you know what? Challenges like that I love, because it tests me to have to be better than I was before I got there. And I love that. I love those kind of situations.
And that's why you probably have enough experience now to sort of mentor people who would like to have that experience of being keynote speakers or being great public speakers. And I know you're working a lot with executives now.
I do. Well, all around the world. Yesterday, I was talking to one company who had me speaking to their world leaders. So there was a lady I was talking to, and it's great. There's women getting more into tech companies. That's a really good thing.
Yes,
I really like that. There was a lady in Johannesburg in South Africa. There was a lady in the Ivory Coast. Another lady in London. Yeah. All just about to deliver either keynotes or be on panels. Yeah. And yesterday we had about an hour and a half of each one, and teaching them how to do it. And the fascinating thing is, working as a keynote is different from being on a panel.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And a lot of people, they first start to do it by being on a panel as a guest. And there are set rules for doing it. Most people don't know. You just sit there and you smile and you answer your questions and you leave. No. It's a beauty pageant. You versus everybody else.
Yeah.
And what happens is you've got to be within certain rules. Yeah. Now, if I'm hosting an event, I will make sure that the panel that I'm talking to do exactly what I tell them to do. I'll meet them beforehand. I'll say, you've got a minute and a half each. I'm going to get you to introduce who you are. I'll ask a question. It's going to go through one by one. You'll all answer the question. And then if you overstay your welcome and you talk for too long, I will not let you answer the next question. Is that clear of everybody? Yes, it is. And what we're going to do with that is and I'll get the questions from them because they know what they want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them my questions. I don't want to catch them out. It's about creating the best chat for 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes for the audience to get something out of it.
Yeah.
So if we're working as a team, that's fantastic. If I'm a panel guest and there's other people on the panel, no. I don't do it like that. I change the rules. I will own that panel in a very short amount of time, because there's certain things that you can do. Now, you've got to be very careful. You can't overstay your welcome. You've got to make sure that you don't throw your ego into it, because if you do too much ego, then people will actually be repulsed by you, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
But you also have to think about, why am I on that panel? I'm there to sell my stuff. What do I mean sell my stuff? I want, at the end of this session, for people to turn around and contact me and say, can I have a chat with you? I loved what you said there. Can you do this for us? Yeah. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I'm not there to say, look at me, I'm fantastic and you're all rubbish.
Yeah.
If I'm not there to do that, why am I on that panel? Because there's always something better to do with your time than just be there talking about yourself.
I agree.
And so when I work with my clients, I teach them how to deliver incredible keynote speeches, how to work audiences, how to get the audience to eat out of your hands in less than 7 seconds. I can get any audience to be my audience, and they'll eat out of my hands for the rest of the keynote or the rest of the afternoon, and how to get them to clap for you at the end of your presentation. That's an interesting one. Most people don't know how to get an audience to clap for them.
Yeah, so probably need to get a secret from. Just to finish the previous question, see, what's the difference between then being a panel guest, let's say, and giving a keynote speech? So just in a few words.
Okay, well, if you're a panel guest, you're there to deliver a kind of program of different sound bites of people from different walks of life or different industries or different positions. So the questions will give a variety of answers for the audience to be able to get what they needed from that particular panel.
Yeah.
If you're a keynote, your job is to get the audience in front of you to walk out there with something more than they had when they first sat down. It could be that you're teaching them something special.
Yeah.
It could be that you're entertaining them. But the way I see it, because a lot of my work with keynotes is I'm brought in as the act. So rather than bringing me in, I mean, we've got a motivational speaker instead of a band, or a motivational speaker instead of, a juggler or a magician or something. So I'm actually treating it like a rock star. I'm giving a rock performance. My job is to go out there, rock them using the spoken word, take them on a journey that makes them go, wow, give them a call to action that makes them want to do something different than they've ever done before, and leave them changed. Now, you don't always know whether you've got that right with everybody in the audience. After my experience of doing it for many years, I know the best way to make the audience react. But sometimes you plant a little time bomb that later on they come back and say, that made a difference. I remember one gentleman, I went and I did a training morning all about life design. This is going back about 10, 15 years. And so he's a big guy. He said, I love that. You've motivated me. I want to work and start my own franchise. He said, I want a Subway franchise. I went, fantastic, great. I met him about 15 years later at a different event, and the guy was built. I mean, he looked like one of the Avengers. And he came up to me and said, do you remember me? I said, you usually say yes, even though you don't. Yeah, of course I do. Yes, where would I remember you from? I meet thousands of people. And he said, I was at that event. And I wanted to start my own Subway franchise. I went, Ahmed? He went, yeah. And he said, now I'm a teacher and I'm a trainer, personal trainer. And he said, all that is down to you.
Right.
And so you don't know what you're planting. Sometimes it's got a period of time before it changes people. Sometimes they act on it immediately. But as long as what you're driving is what's in it for them, rather than what's in it for you, I don't care what's in it for me. I've got a lovely family. I love my life. I do the stuff I want to do. But I want to make sure that everybody who meets me walks away with something more than they had beforehand. And that's important. It's not just on stage. When somebody fills your car with petrol, you've got to say thank you. When a waiter serves you, you say thank you very much, it was great. When you go into a supermarket and you get served, you have to say thank you very much, how's your day? Or something. You leave somebody better than they were before you got there. And it all goes full circle and comes back to you as well, because people remember the way that you make them feel. And also makes you feel better because your own personal Wi-Fi code is gratitude and love and respect and caring about people. If you don't have that and you feel bitter and negative and the world's horrible, then people don't want to play with you because they can feel it and you feel rotten.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and that's absolutely no. I think that's a great point about making somebody difference after the keynote, and that's really powerful, I think. So, my question to you: so, first of all, what is the secret of gaining the audience within the first 7 minutes, you said?
7 seconds.
7 seconds.
You wanted me to give away my secrets for your podcast.
I mean,
so I will never get another gig because everyone's going to say, oh, we know what Dave does.
No, but I mean, you have to master it, right? And one thing is knowing, the other thing is to master
I share it with people when I train them. And I remember I used to do speaking classes. And sometimes people would say, I'm not going to do that. It sounds too cheesy. But every now and again, people would go, oh, my goodness, that is brilliant. I was coaching somebody the other day. Who was it? I'm trying to remember. But it was somebody who's a really big hitter. And he has a very successful business. And he said, I want you to show me how to deliver this keynote. So I said, right, I'm going to show you how to open a room and how to close a room. So I'll share with you because I want people to watch this podcast. And people to love you as much as I think you're amazing. What you do is you walk on stage. You don't engage the audience until the microphone is in your hand and until the audience is paying attention. So what most people do is they walk on talking, and then the first thing they do is they've got a big slide with their logo on or their name and their LinkedIn and stuff like that, and they start telling you the relevance of who they are and what they've done, and you went to Harvard, then after, who cares? Nobody cares. Not one person cares. You do, because you want to verify why you should be on stage. You want to justify why the audience. The audience doesn't care. They want you to be congruent with what they need to know about you, which is this person going to teach us something? So you walk on and you hold the audience. And one of the keys to being a great speaker, whether you're a comedian or whether you're a host or whether you're a keynote, is you own the silence. It's easy to talk. It's the gaps. And you have to be fearless to do that. So you walk out and you hold the audience and you look at the audience. Now the audience, depending on how big it is, if it's a small audience, it's more difficult. If it's a big audience, it's much easier because it's like a single monster with lots of different heads. They will follow whatever you tell them to do if you do it right. So I'll walk out and I'll say, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh, come on. We can do much better than that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. and they say good morning back.
Yeah.
Now, why did they do that? Why did they say good morning back? And why would I do that? Say something so cheesy?
I don't know, actually. Yeah, it's a very valid question. I don't know. I would answer you, good morning. I usually get skeptical about, when I'm the audience and somebody is like asking me to do something, I'd be probably the last person who will get engaged, I think. Just because I want to see that it's really something that interests me, or this is really sincere. I don't know. Different thoughts in my head, usually. Yeah.
Right, let me share with you. I was sharing this the other day with one of my clients, industry icon clients, who's like a Richard Branson of Australia, really high level, multi-millionaire, very successful. Mm-hmm. And he said that's genius. I'll explain exactly why I said that. So most people waste 2 or 3 minutes trying to get the audience to like them while they're nervous.
Yeah.
And during that time, the audience is smoking, talking, drinking coffee on their phone. Eventually, they look up and they're like, well, what's this about? Because they've missed the title, they've missed the beginning, and they're just going, right, we're playing catch-up. You don't want to burn any of your material with the audience, so you need them to be paying attention to you from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is effectively teaching them to sing a song back to me.
Right.
So if you go and see a pop concert, whether it's Justin Bieber or Bryan Adams or whoever you would see, whenever they play one of their big hits, the audience can sing the song back to them. That's why I say, good morning, everybody, good morning. Because what's a natural response to that?
Good morning. Good morning, Dave.
Well, actually, what their response is
No, I would respond to you. Definitely, I would. I find that for some reason, I don't know. Maybe
no, you would do, and you're right, and you're my perfect audience. But let me explain why I meant by because what I'm actually saying is put your phone down, stop talking, finish your cigarette, put your coffee down, daddy's here, pay attention. I don't expect them to say good morning back. Some will, some won't.
Yeah.
But I'm not burning any material. I'm getting them to realize by throwing it out there. It's like when you see these war movies and they fire tracer shot up into the air, flare, so we can see who's shooting at it and see where the enemy is. That's what they're doing. So with that, I'm going, right, I'm here. So like that. That's why I get an back, and sometimes I get good morning. Then I do what's called breaking the fourth wall. Now, if you've ever watched House of Cards with Kevin Spacey in the days when we liked him, the best part about House of Cards was when he would talk to the audience. So he's there talking to some dignitary or some politician, and he's arguing with them. Then he turns to the camera. He says, I hate this guy. And you can see I hate this guy. Wait till you see what I'm going to do next. And then he goes back into the drama. It's called breaking the fourth wall. I'm breaking the fourth wall with my second line, which is when I look at the audience and I say, oh, come on, we can do much better than that. We is collective we. We're in this together. We're having a conversation. It's not me versus you. It's not a beauty pageant to show that I'm the best person at doing this and you must pay attention. Because if I do that and you don't like it, you're not going to join in with me. You're going to have your arms folded, entertain me, Dave. I don't want that. I want to set it up. We're in it together. We can do much better than that. I kind of smile a bit or laugh a little bit. Then I do it again. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I raise my arms like that. Don't go like this because there might be sweat patches. And I raise it like that because they feel the energy of me lifting them, physically lifting them like that by saying good morning. I'm giving them no choice but to say good morning back.
Yeah.
So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh, come on. We can do it much better than that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Then the key to it is to thank them. Thank you so much. Otherwise, they feel that you've robbed them of something and you've cheated them because you've made them do stuff they didn't want to do. But if you say thank you, they go, that's nice. I like that. This guy clearly can run an audience, so we'll pay attention. We're in good hands, and he's brought us involved.
Yeah.
But what I've really done is I've gauged the level of the audience's entertainment. I know that when they say good morning the second time, they'll never be louder than that for the rest of the presentation.
True.
So if I say, everybody, do you know what I'm talking about? And I get silence. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yes. Thank you so much. I can re-energize that all the way through, but I know they won't go any higher than I got them at the very beginning when I caught them off guard. So I'll know whether an audience is a great audience or a flat audience because I'll be able to gauge it at the very beginning to know what the level of standard of Wi-Fi is going to be all the way through.
Yeah.
Then, once I've got them and said, thank you very much, I can then turn to my presentation because they're paying attention and I can then deliver whatever I need to deliver.
Absolutely. No, I think now I have to admit this is genius. And I think this is a really great technique that everybody should master
Well,
secretly.
there's a way of doing it in a boardroom,
Yeah.
and there's a way of doing it in front of 50,000 people. The same principles happen,
Yeah.
but you do use different phrases.
For sure. I mean, the structure is, first of all, so throughout our conversation, I understand that the conversation, regardless of how big your audience is, small or big, you have to maintain that level of conversation with them. And then a few techniques that you mentioned, like to gain the audience within the first 7 seconds, etc. No, that's great. I'm picking that up.
Do you want me to show you how to do it to a corporate audience, a boardroom of people?
Please. That's
right.
Interesting. That's
Because you're not going to
interesting.
get a load of suits to do a Mexican wave.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
sitting around there. And often you've got them facing you because they're there for a meeting, but they're there to either say no to your offer or
Yeah.
to buy from you. So it's a sales meeting of some description. The sales meetings end everything you do. So instead of doing that, good morning, everybody, good morning, come on, we can do much better than that. Good morning, everybody, good morning. You say, good morning, everybody, is everyone okay? Are you ready to begin? Then let's begin. Why do you do it like that? Well, good morning, everybody. Is everyone okay? We'll give you a yes or a no. Are you ready to begin? Allows them to say, no, I'm going to go make a phone call. I've got to do this. So you're not judging them, but you're giving them an out. Then when they come back, you say, ready to begin now? And then you just go on to it. So it's very formal. It's corporate. It's not embarrassing, but uses the same 3 stages without embarrassing anybody or without it looking like you're not in control. You're very much in control. And it doesn't matter whether you do that at the beginning of your speech for the beginning of the whole event or halfway through, you're the speaker and you go on and you run the audience like that. You will own the audience for the time that they're there. Sure. That room is yours, and it should be yours. If you don't let it become yours, then it means you're never going to own it, and you're never going to own that audience, and will never get what that might be a life-changing experience or insight because they just weren't paying enough attention.
Yeah, so it's more about choosing the right phrase, but the structure would be the same, but it's more about choosing the right sort of hook for every audience.
Yes, but you see, a lot of people come to me about that good morning thing and say, I'd never say that. And say, yeah, nobody ever says it like that. But trust me, say it like that. And we say, no, good morning. And nobody says anything. And we say, come on, good morning. Nobody says anything. Why? Because you haven't forced them to learn the chorus. You haven't forced them to learn that good morning's been said a couple of times. Maybe they'll say good morning. And if I don't join in this time, they'll keep going. I've got better things. Good morning.
Okay, so you have to be an actor a little bit.
Well, yeah, but the fact I got them to repeat it, good morning, everybody, good morning, rather than just good morning. Yeah. And you don't do that in an evening, it's good evening, and afternoon's good afternoon. But the principle is there. There's a famous, he's no longer with us, a British comedian and host of TV shows called Bruce Forsyth. And he used to walk on stage and say, nice to see you. And the audience would shout, nice. And that happened whatever show he was doing, Strictly Ballroom or whether The Price is Right, doesn't matter. And that was his catchphrase. And it's the same thing. A catchphrase with a host is to get the audience to pay attention at the very beginning. Yeah. And then you share what you need to share.
Yes, that's great. What would you, for example, if we get back to your executive coaching, let's say, for example, most of the executives that you probably work with and I interacted with as well, say most of them are really great at the corporate meetings. So they tend to be really great speakers in the meeting environment. What would be your recommendation to them to, let's say, when they need to deliver? So is it the same to be a great speaker at the keynote or at a public speaking, the same as to be a great speaker at the meeting?
They're different. You've got to select the way that you work to any particular audience, but most of them are not great speakers at all. They think they're great speakers. Your average CEO will get a thunderous round of applause because they're the CEO. If people don't clap, they don't get paid. So they go out there and say, right, this is what we're going to do today, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say it. I've watched CEOs go out and talk about the fact that this year we hit our targets, but we didn't hit the bonuses, so nobody's going to get paid extra. And the audience still claps, but the audience is gutted. Why are they there? Why did he bring them in to tell them that they're not going to get their bonuses? But because they're a CEO, they think people clap because they love you. They don't. You've got to earn that. And that's why people now are leaving organizations to never go back again. That toxic thing where you're in charge, so therefore what I say is right, isn't right. if you don't think about your staff and think about what's in it for them, then it's not going to work. So many times in boardrooms, I watch people get it wrong. On stages, I watch CEOs get it wrong. The problem is they've got to be open to be coached. Many aren't. Many believe that they deliver it and must be the audience's problem. It's not the audience's problem. The audience are either good or bad. They generally don't care. You have to learn to work every audience, so therefore what you deliver works. And there's set ways of doing it. Often the speech has been created by the PR team, who are used to writing press releases. So they give you a press release to read out. It's impossible to read it. It's got big words. It's got challenging paragraphs that are too long. It's not made for speaking. It's made for reading like that. And even on websites, people just scan. People don't read anymore unless they really like novels and books. So what you want to do is create something that's got an experience for people. Takes them on a journey. And that's what every executive, every CEO, every decision maker needs to be able to learn. You have a conversation with your audience so they get something out of it. And that's what you're actually coaching executives to do. So the first secret is they need to be open to coaching, and then you do your job. Well, yeah, I don't tend to work with executives. I tend to work with decision makers. There is a difference. People don't tend to throw me their younger managers and say, right, can you fix this? They tend to come to me because they're really top level, and they know that they get $1 million deal or they lose $1 million deal from their ability to stand up at conference and speak. Because if they don't do it very well, but their rival or competitor goes up and does it much better, their competitor will get everyone saying, oh, I love that, I want to work with you. So when they come to me and they say, Dave, I want you to teach me, I say to them from the very beginning that you've got to be open to understand this, and I want you to work with me on this. If they aren't coachable, what am I doing there? All they're going to do is tell everybody it didn't work, or I didn't like what you said. They've got to be open to it. And the evidence is there. I've been doing it for like 50 years, that I know how to work a live audience, and everybody that I work with who works through the Speak on Stage system is capable of working any audience anywhere, from working a room full of children to working with a room full of royals. I've done all of them, and it works. What would be your first 5 minutes of your client conversation? So imagine I'm your best client, and I came to you to sort of get a coaching. So what would be your first 5-10 minutes, let's say, of the client meeting? So what would you coach me to do as your best client, probably? Right. First thing I would do is, as I say what's in it for them. Get you to understand your audience before we look at who you are and what you do. Then we work out from your material, what is the message you want to get across to them? Do you want them to buy something? Do you want them to look favorably on your organization? Do you want to just give them some information? What is it you want to create? And then we'll create that based on the end objectives. I will show them how to work an audience. So in many cases, people have massive fear of public speaking. I won't say why. That's a long story about why it is. It goes back to cavemen days. We're scared of a bear coming into the cave, so we freeze. That's the same as an audience in front of you that wants to get you. It doesn't want to get you. It doesn't care. But it feels like that. Our natural response is that. So I teach them how to work an audience, like I have done earlier, about how to get an audience on your side in 9 seconds. I also teach them how to get an audience to clap for you at the end of your keynote. Once you know that you can get them to be on your side in 9 seconds, and you get them to clap at the end, regardless of what you've said to them, then that means a bit that happens in the middle, just don't do something really offensive. Don't shoot anybody. Don't swear non-stop all the way through. Deliver good content in a good way, because if you know they're going to clap at the end, guaranteed. But that takes a lot of pressure off. It takes off that fear of the unknown. What if they hate me? Well, it doesn't matter if they hate you or not. I don't know. Maybe my audiences hate me, but they all clap, and I get brought back again and again. It's not personal. It's work. But also, if you give them what they want and you smile, what's not to love? That's true. So maybe one of the last questions for today's conversation. So what would you want you and my audience to do after listening to this chat? What do you to progress on, let's say, on efficient communication and public speaking? Well, the best thing for anybody to do is to start following me on social media. I tend to be on LinkedIn more than anything else. But go to speakonstage.com and see all the stuff that I offer. My main area is I help people to speak as part of becoming an industry icon. And what that is about is, I believe that nowadays, if you look at the big hitters today in every industry, they are individuals who built up a brand alongside what their company does. Elon Musk is probably one of the most watched people on the planet. Now, one of the problems is that unless you really have been taught and mentored to have a great brand, you're a human being that's been amplified far too much beyond what you are normally gauged to do. And so you end up putting your foot in your mouth a lot more because you've got it wrong. So I help people to understand who they truly are, getting over imposter syndrome to understand what deep down is affecting them, then to create a brand that the world will want, not just what they want to share with the world, and then the right messaging map and communications. Once they've got that, then they'll learn to write books or give a keynote or do a podcast or create some kind of relationship and multiple income streams as part of that. Because I believe that now that we've got automation coming in and so many people are going to lose their jobs because of the fact that a robot can do it or an algorithm can do what you, if you're an expert of a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, then you should be really worried about the fact that an algorithm can do what you do very quickly for an audience in seconds without any knowledge or training. So you have to then position yourself as a brand who can interpret what that really means and do it significantly for clients. Yeah. So for instance, here we've got a phone, nice phone, iPhone. It means that when you go to a wedding, you can take really good photos of the wedding. But if it was your wedding, would you rely on everyone's iPhones and see what they took photos of? Or would you still hire a wedding photographer? Even though the phones are probably about the same kind of quality, you'd get a professional in. So people need to be seen as the very best at what they do.
Yeah.
And I think now that everyone's connected, it's much easier to do that. If you haven't built your brand, then you become invisible, worse than ever before. But if you've built it, then you can last forever. And that's the key to your legacy.
Cool. No, that was an amazing conversation, Dave. Definitely, I always feel when I talk to you that we can talk for hours about different things, different areas. Today we covered the public speaking and efficient communication, a lot of keynotes, and thank you so much for a lot of valuable insights. Hopefully we can do it again, and hopefully to see you again in our new studio that is opening this month.
I do love this place, but thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thanks a lot.